Over the radio, we heard conflicting reports that the tower was hit by a small plane, and it wasn't until the second tower was hit that we knew something was wrong. Getting hurt took me off that pile, which I would have been there for 10 months, because that's how long it took to clean up. I could have died of cancer. Between Washington, D.C., New Jersey, Michigan, Albany, the capital of New York State, I've now have my fingerprints on helping 19 pieces of legislation. And I haven't lost yet. There's no title in the world that you put before your name that gives you the privilege of being a dick.
Esto es Punto de Reunión.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Gracias por este episodio más en Punto de Reunión. Estamos aquí grabando directamente en Estados Unidos, en la ciudad de New York City, en Manhattan. So I will start with a very brief description of yourself, and there we go. John Feal was part of the many groups of people who started to work immediately after 9/11 happening in New York City in September 11, 2001. He was a demolition supervisor at Ground Zero when a falling steel beam landed on his foot. The injury developed in gangrene, then sepsis, and eventually required partial amputation. He raised the voice for those who were left behind. Mr. John Feal is advocate for veterans and first responders. He is founder of the Feel Good Foundation. He has worked very hard for the past 15 years for many causes, but most important for the health benefits for 9/11 first responders, who suffered devastating injuries and illnesses in the aftermath of the cleanup work that did at Ground Zero. Mr. John Feal, thank you very much for accepting this interview for Punto de Reunión.
Gracias.
And actually, thanks to you for receiving me at your home here in Manhattan, New York, just a few blocks away from Ground Zero. It is such a great honor for me to be here. Thanks again. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Getting into the questions and what I just described, I know it's hard for you to talk about this stuff, but just making a quick context, please tell us how was a typical morning for you, but let's say a week before 9/11. How was a normal day for you?
It's not so much that it's difficult to talk about. I try not to talk about myself because when you talk about yourself too much, you lose the flavor of the issue. And 9/11 is bigger than everybody. And while you were reading off my bio, it's a little outdated because, you know, I'm now going on 20 years of doing this, and it's taken its toll, mentally and physically. But this is what I chose to do. This is all I know how to do, and I'm going to continue to do it until I can't do it anymore.
You cannot run for it. You cannot run from it.
No, not that I've tried. I've tried to walk away slowly, but I know my responsibility, and in my mind, I haven't finished what I started because there's so many moving parts, and there's always new obstacles and new hurdles that get in our way, whether at the local, state, or federal government's inability to show compassion and empathy. So I'm going to be needed. My team's going to be needed. And, you know, the beauty about it now was in the beginning, all we had was a sword. And we were warriors. And now we're able to put down our swords and pick up our rakes and farm and watch something grow with our loved ones. But when needed, they put down their rakes and pick up their swords again. So I surround myself with good people. And, you know, before 9/11, I worked hard, I played hard, worked 60, 70, 80 hours a week, led the single life, lifelong bachelor, enjoyed money, enjoyed my job. And then 9/11 happened, and we can cliche it all we want.
Where were you on 9/11 this morning?
Yeah, so that morning I was in Nanuet, New York, which is about an hour outside of New York City. I was living on Long Island at the time, so it's about an hour and 45 minutes. Over the radio, we heard conflicting reports that the tower was hit by a small plane, And it wasn't until the second tower was hit that we knew something was wrong. I had about 200 and something people on the job that I was in charge of. I said, you guys can all go home or we'll pay for your hotel. And everybody went home. I had to lock everything up. And the drive, which is usually an hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours, without traffic, took me about 35 minutes. There was nobody on the road. Not one car was on the road, and I could freely do 140 miles an hour. But driving home, I drove over the Throgs Neck Bridge, and I stopped, and I saw the shroom, the cloud in Lower Manhattan from the bridge, and I was in awe. And you know, you're not programmed to.
Hard to believe
It was so surreal. So I never went home. I went to the office, and later that night, the owner of the company and myself, we went down. We were later joined a few days later by hundreds of people from the office. But what I saw, I have the ability to block out now, where in the beginning I didn't. What I heard, I had the ability to block out now, but in the beginning I didn't. But to this day, I can never block out the smell. It was a combination of death, destruction, devastation, carnage. And if you combine them all, and if it had a smell, that was it. If I close my eyes long enough and think about it, it brings me to tears.
Wow. And then you became like a volunteer, or somebody called you to become this
No.
after everything happened?
No, before
You started to work there in Ground Zero, right?
Well, I worked at Ground Zero for 5 days, 5.5 days before I was injured. I'm lucky. I got hurt. Getting hurt took me off that pile, which I would have been there for 10 months, because that's how long it took to clean up. I could have died of cancer. Getting hurt made my other senses and my other superhuman powers stronger. But at that time, getting hurt was devastating, but it was also humbling. My mindset before I got hurt, I thought I was the world's greatest athlete. I didn't have a worry in the world, and I was humbled. And after 11 weeks, I had to come to terms with who I was and what I'm going to be the rest of my life. But it wasn't until a couple of years later, after fighting for myself and going to therapy physically and mentally, that I realized how many people were deathly ill and sick and dying. I had nothing to prove. I had nothing to prove. I had a documented physical injury, and yet I still had to fight for myself. I didn't have John Feal or the Feel Good Foundation to help me. I had to learn.
And you cannot help others if you cannot help yourself first, right?
And I started meeting other people, started going to support groups. And 2004, I was asked to go to DC. If I told you now that I was going to do that in 2004, I'd be, it just wasn't in my cards. And I have no training in lobbying. I don't call it lobbying because it's such a dirty word. We educated our nation's leaders.
It's more like negotiation.
Sure. And between Washington, D.C., New Jersey, Michigan, Albany, the capital of New York State, I've now have my fingerprints on helping 19 pieces of legislation. And I haven't lost yet.
Not many people can say that.
No, no one.
I mean,
no,
not at least civilians, not people that it's not really related to politics or
nobody. No one could say that.
Yeah.
And
was it something that happened, like some particular day that you decide to start?
Yeah.
This
So
advocacy?
Again, a documented physical injury. I got denied the first victims compensation fund. I got denied my basic benefits that you work into, and I had to keep going to hearings in court. And I was scratching my head. This doesn't make sense. And if it's happening to me, it's happening to other people because they all had invisible diseases. cancer, COPD, pulmonary fibrosis. And, again, I don't like cliches, but there's always somebody worse off than you. And I found out the hard way of all these people that were sick. And I'm never going to complain about myself. We have good days and bad days. If you're having a day, you're above ground. It's that simple. And here in America, I don't know about in Mexico, they say you only live once.
Yeah. Well,
That's not
live
true.
the moment,
That's not true. You only die once.
and you only die.
You live every day.
Yeah.
Right? And that's how I choose to live. So I don't think like everybody. What we see today is not my norm. But my mother, who was my mother, my father, my best friend, she taught me, if you believe in something, fight for it. Try to be respectful. And I say over the last 20 years, I've been mostly respectful. Yes, I've cursed on national TV, but they were premeditated and they moved the needle. So if you tell a congressman or ask a congressman for help, they'll ignore you. But if you say you're a fucking asshole, you got their attention. And when you show them you have nothing to lose and that you can continue to come back and back and back and put your foot on their neck, they cave. They're cowards. I proved that. Over 2,000 meetings, over 350 trips, I've enjoyed beating the crap out of them.
What was the biggest challenge? Like to be over and over, to be heard,
Incompetence,
make a point?
politics, ideologies, not ideologies, but ideologies, big difference. Poor leadership and misinformation. In a world of so much information, the lies that were spread. This was a New York issue, but somebody from every congressional district in the United States, except for one, went to ground zero during the 10-month cleanup.
Exactly. And the people that came here to help, that got injured, probably was not from New York City.
No. So the fact that we had to continue to do it over and over and over again, the first time we got the bill passed in 2010, we got lucky. We were that little engine that could, right? But in 2011, we got another bill passed. 2015, we got another bill passed. 2019. And then last year with the veterans, with the burn pits, we're no longer that little engine that could. We were that big engine that did. Leave us alone. Leave the people that we advocate for alone, and we'll leave you alone. But while we're on watch, if they do something that crosses the line, then we're back in DC or Albany or New Jersey, wherever local, state, federal government, wherever legislation is needed. I don't want to fight with anybody. I want to live the rest of my life. I want to live in peace. I want to live in peace alone. But sometimes you got to fight. And it's amazing that you have to fight another person to do the right thing. The true spirit of the human being, the true spirit is to give of each other. What was it? Picasso said, the meaning of life is to find your gift.
It's like in the Bible, it says that do not do others if you don't want that to be done to you.
The meaning of life is
Live in peace.
The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away, right? But if you're happy now, I'm happy for you. If you're sad, of course I'm gonna be sad for you. And I think we've lost the human connection to treat each other like that. I don't care if you're black, white, Spanish, Chinese, Asian, Indian. I don't care if you're Republican or a Democrat. Just don't be an asshole to each other. It's that simple. It's literally that simple. And there are now people who are paid handsomely to wake up, to get on a podcast, to get on a radio show, to get on a TV show. They're paid to be assholes and give misinformation and spread it out there like a cracked windshield. And those people that listen believe it.
And why was that? It looks in retrospective that it was something so obvious, and yet so many people was against it.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's what happens. When there's a disaster, when there's something that's historically bad, two things happen. Conspiracy theories or advocacy. I chose the advocacy. To advocate for human life. You know, people say, oh, well, you're just doing this. No, I donated a kidney to a complete stranger. And everybody's like, why are you doing that? You're crazy. And I was like, why wouldn't I do that? I just gave somebody the gift of life. They can never repay me. The only way they can repay me is if they live longer than me. That is it. So when people say, oh, you do this for the wrong reason, I do this because I believe in humanity. And if we lose humanity, we've lost everything. I don't get caught up. I don't care what people say or this, you know, people will come up to me and say, oh, you look taller on TV. You know, oh, I saw you on the other night. You could have said this, you could have did that. Well, why don't you join us? And why don't you say that? I'm not the smartest man in the room.
Yeah.
I'm never the smartest man in the room. But what I have is a will that will never bend, it would break. And my will is stronger than your politics, your religion, your beliefs. And let me tell you something. I go days without eating. I'll go days without sleeping. I'll go days without water to prove a point. Because we're talking about human life. And when we don't value human life, then we don't value anything else. We could say we do materialistic things, but it's fake.
You said something that I would like to quote is the legislation that we pass doesn't save lives, but it gives them a fighting chance and it provides for their families when they are gone.
Sure.
This is a very profound statement. It's like very deep. It like really took my attention. Your work has played a crucial role in the advocacy efforts of 9/11. But can you tell us what other services provides your foundation? It's like probably the best work that you are going to leave once.
The legislation that we passed is not going to save anybody's lives. There's no pill in there that goes, take this, you live forever. But it's a two-part bill. It's free healthcare through the World Trade Center Health Program, and then it's compensation through the Victims' Compensation Fund. It gives them a fighting chance. Now, 20 years later, all of these doctors have 20 years experience in environmental medicine and disease. So if you go to a regular doctor, they don't know what to look for. You go to a World Trade Center Health Program doctor. Our cancers in the 9/11 community, say you have lung cancer and I have lung cancer. Mine's more aggressive. It's like on steroids than your cancer. But here's the odd thing, statistically proven. I have a better chance of beating my lung cancer than you do. And that's amazing because of the science and the research and the medical journals and all the work that's been done over the last 20 years. So while that bill provides free healthcare, you know, you don't just go into the program to get healthcare. You're now also a guinea pig because they're using all of that research for the next disaster. And it's coming one day. And they'll be able to use 9/11 as a model. But if you get sick, you lose your job. Then you get compensated for your illness. There's no joy in getting these pieces of legislation passed. A lot of the people that I work with, that when we do get a bill passed, they jump up and down and they hug and they cry. One time, in 2019, when we got the bill passed, John and I saw each other in the hallway, John Stewart, and we both cried and we hugged. And it was like just to exhale, like finally, don't have to do that anymore. There's other issues that we have to do, but we don't have to do that anymore. But each time we take up a fight, before, during, and after, more people get sick and more people die. And while the Feel Good Foundation continues to advocate or donate money, or I think what I'm most proud of is the park that I built on Long Island. And it's called the 9/11 Responders Remembered Park. And I got 1 acre of land donated for $1. And we built $1 million park on it. And it's dedicated to those who have died since 9/11 from their illnesses. And now there are other places around New York that are emulating us. That's the greatest compliment ever. There are people that ask me for my list because from September to September, I keep a track of the fatalities of how many people we lost.
Wow.
And that park's my baby. I have no kids. And on September 16th, always the Saturday after 9/11, we'll do a reading of the names, followed by the ringing of the bell. And then Suffolk County Police will do a flyover with their helicopter. Every year I choose somebody to read the names. And this year, the 9/11 Memorial Museum president, Beth Hillman, will read the names. It's a somber event. It's painful to go to. But it's the last final resting place if the World Trade Center Health Program can't survive you, help you survive, and your doctors, that place is for them, for those here. You know, they say a man or a woman dies twice.
Why is that?
One, when your heart stops, and two, when people stop talking about you. And every year those people's names are read. We're never gonna stop talking about their heroic actions and how they fought for the last 10, 15, 20, 22 years, no matter how long they survived their illnesses. And, you know, I'm pretty sure their loved ones remember them on their holidays. I'm pretty sure during their anniversary or their birthdays. But the park, which is 1 acre, which is open 24/7, which is lit, open at night, where you can go there at any time. And if you sit there long enough and you stay silent, you can hear the wall talk. I sit there and I just listen to all of those guys talking on the wall. And it's my safe haven. Other than going to my mother's grave, that park is my safe place.
What I see here is that when somebody get hurt or injured, or let's say in this after these events like you, if nobody took care of them, the effect goes far because they lose their jobs, they don't
Sure.
have an income, so it's like a vicious circle.
Yeah.
But what you did is right in the opposite way. It's like, I don't know how many people you directly help it, but indirectly it's a lot of people. For what you're saying, it's like not just you're giving the hope for too many people, but also you are helping them to continue with their lives and with their families and with so many people that is looking what you're doing.
You know, in the back of my mind, I know what I've done, but it's not ready to be brought forward yet, right? You know, imagine me like at the end of my career in baseball, and I know I have 3,000 hits. I know I hit 500 home runs. I know one day I'll be in the Hall of Fame, but I'm playing the game because I love the game, and I know it's going to end soon. I know my legacy's cemented. I've take all the accolades and all the awards and all of the milestones and all of the historic things that I've been involved with, but the biggest one I take is the friendships I made with Jon Stewart, with Nancy Pelosi called me yesterday just to talk for a half an hour. Joe Biden called me savage. He called me an animal. The President of the United States thinks I'm savage. I'm pretty cool.
That's cool.
It's the friendships, and those are priceless, and I'll never change that for anything.
Is there anything that you should change if you have the chance to go back in the past? You do everything exactly the same.
You know, I think no, I don't. You know, I created a recipe to beat Congress on their own home court. You know, there are people around this country, around the world, that fight their own governments. There are people with great causes that they believe in. So you had a kid, and your kid was hit by a drunk driver. You have advocates for drunk drivers, right, with children. There are so many people in this country and around the world that believe in something, and they're smarter than me. They're smarter than me. But they don't feel like they can get anywhere because The government won't, I went to my congressman's office, or I went to my legislator's office, and they shut the door on me and they said, go away. Don't give up. You don't have the time and the resources, then get people to join you so you could spread it out and delegate. We created a system where I can now make a phone call where they have to take my phone call or they have to see me in person. And they'd rather take a phone call from me. I get pretty colorful when it's just me with the member of Congress or the senator, and I get their attention. Everybody in New York is afraid I'll run against them. If I ran for Congress, I will win. I don't say that to be arrogant or pretentious. I say that because I know my body of work, and I know I'll help people, and I know I'll put people before a party. We're 22 years removed from the most historic, devastating day in our lifetime. We're that close to losing humanity. The terrorists did as much damage as they could that day because of senseless violence. But now, 22 years later, because of corruption, because of misinformation, because of greed, because one party doesn't want to accept another party, we're in a spiral downward. The crash is going to be, it's sad. When I first started going to DC, Republicans and Democrats had conversation. There was a thing called log cabin Republicans and blue dog Democrats, moderates. And when they would have a conversation like this, now you have bipolar, bi-opposite, bipartisan that want to attack each other with a vengeance, with no substance. So, every time we went to DC, we saw the evolution of the decay of Congress. And everybody's like, oh, with that temperature and that environment, you're not going to get anything done. I said, yeah, well, we'll get their attention. We'll get them back up, focused. We'll get them, and we did. Even last year with the burn pits with the veterans, that helped 3 million veterans. That was a $300 billion piece of legislation that John and I helped the VSOs get passed. Just like donating the kidney, I gave somebody the gift of life. But the hundreds of thousands of people affected by 9/11 or the millions affected by the burn pits, I gave people a fighting chance to not give up, to not lose faith, to not lose hope. Because like me, they all were lied to, neglected, denied, told to go away by their local, state, and federal government.
Self-awareness, self-acceptance.
Well, yeah.
Like, you should look yourself in the mirror. It's like,
I like to think if you watch The Walking Dead, I'm gonna survive. I'm not gonna get bit by a zombie. All right. You either have the choice to roll over and lay there and wait for help,
cry and be a victim,
or you get up, brush it off, roll your sleeves up, and make the help come quicker. And I'm gonna keep doing that.
So it's clear that you have achieved significant progress in securing benefits and raising awareness. What message would you like to send to anyone listening to this podcast who may be facing their own struggles and fighting for particularly justice or assistance causes?
Yeah, listen, if individually or collectively as a group or masses, if you're going through something traumatic and you're physically or mentally injured, it's not the end of the world. A lot of guys in the 9/11 community years ago were like, I don't have post-traumatic, I don't have PTSD. Yes, you do. And they were like embarrassed. It was like a stigma. And post-traumatic means you went through something and you came out the other side. Yeah, you got life scars. But if you use it and harness it and challenge it and use it as a weapon, you don't know what you're capable of until you have to. I probably told this story about 4 or 5 times in my life, but I'll share it with you guys. In 2004, My mother was diagnosed with cancer, and 2 years later she passed away. She didn't complain once. Meanwhile, I was like, woo, you know, and one day I was coming home from physical therapy, and because I was going to physical therapy and mental therapy, and went to McDonald's. And I don't eat McDonald's anymore, okay? But I had a number 2 with a Diet Coke, which makes no sense. And I'm sitting at McDonald's like 1:30, and it's empty. And in walks this guy with his 2 daughters. And one's normal as day, and the other one was severely handicapped, where she couldn't talk. She had a helmet on, she only made grunts. And I watched the father order the Happy Meal, and he's carrying, they're all excited that they're gonna eat. And then I just said, please don't sit next to me. Please don't sit next to me. The place is empty. And they sat one table over from me like, oh my God. And I'm done. I don't, you know, I'm like sipping like my ice cubes. And I'm watching the father help each one. Neither one got more treatment than the other. And the daughters are communicating. You know, the one to say, hey, 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 and the other one's like, and I'm just watching them communicate. Then I'm watching the one daughter eat a French fry like me and you were, just like, good. And the other one's struggling, like this, to eat a French fry. And then the daughter's like taking a sip out of her straw, and they're playing with their Happy Meal toys. And the other one's trying to get her mouth over the straw. She's missing, and
getting help from someone.
No, she did it on her own. And I'm sitting there watching this, and I'm going, holy fuck. I'm sitting here feeling sorry for myself. I have a choice. This girl was born like this. She has no choice. But she loves where she is in the moment. And nobody can tell her different. She is so happy to be with her father and sister, having a happy. She knew what the Happy Meal was. I strongly believe inside, she knew exactly what was going on. But on the outside, she was handicapped. And I just like this, I'm never gonna complain again. And don't get me wrong, we're human beings, we complain. I just don't do it in front of people. I'll come home, I have bad days, I cry. I'm 46 surgeries, about 38 of them because of 9/11. People look at me like, oh, you're in such great shape. I've had 46 operations. I've been to 200 funerals. Both of those are enough for the 20 people's lifetimes. Yeah. I've lived my life. I'm not afraid of dying. Sometimes I actually welcome it. I'm afraid of dying and leaving something on the table that I didn't finish. Because I want my slate cleaned. And I want to be able to say, I did it my way. You know, my tombstone, because I'll be cremated after I donate whatever I can. My tombstone's not going to say John E. Feal, November 13th, 1966. And it's going to say he tried. That's it. He tried. And people are going to walk by and go, who the fuck is he tried? That's in my will. Nobody can fuck with it.
Yeah, that's it. Well, last questions. Looking back to Latin America and particularly to Mexico, my country, what do you believe what do you believe it's needed to be done to build this mindset like yours? You have awesome mindset, not just the terrible fact that you are injured and you have these efforts to go through your personal situation and then to go through all this system that was against you, to have the courage first, and then second to fight for the rights of others. Like probably you don't know much about Latin America, but it's we fight against so many things all the time. So how to get the mindset when the things are not going right?
Again,
yeah, I think that you pretty much already answered, but
I think
changing the context a little bit.
It doesn't matter if it's America or Mexico or any Latin country or Eastern European. if you see injustice upon yourself, your family, your friends, your town, your community, and it's being done by your government, you either accept it and live the rest of your life fucking miserable, or you fight it. And you fight. And if you die in the process of fighting, then you live the life. But I would rather die fighting for something than kneeling for anybody. And again, I don't care what country you're in, 99.9% of those people who are going through something like us or will go through something like that are smarter than me. And if a average guy can do all of this, then somebody can make it better. It's that simple. You gotta want it. You gotta believe. You have to trust what you create. You know, when we first started, they demonized me, they attacked me, they made it personal, and I just shrugged my shoulders and I stayed focused. I didn't get sidetracked. You know, Jon Stewart joined us. And a lot of celebrities over the years have contacted me. Some wrote a check, some just wrote an email, some posted on their social media. But Jon rolled up his sleeves and got involved. And he didn't have to. Jon Stewart, he's worth $100 million. He's an A-list celebrity. But Jon saw firsthand what we were going through. And, you know, if I moved to Mexico and the first day I was there and I seen something devastating, you could bet your ass I'm either going to take the lead or I'm going to join somebody who's going to prevent that from happening again. And I think we need, as human beings, to embrace what we're here for, because we've lost touch of why we're truly here. And we take for granted that we'll be here tomorrow, but that's not promised, trust me. And you know, how old are you?
47.
Okay, I'm 56. And you know, when you're in your 20s, you're invincible. You have no worries.
Yeah.
I'm in my 20s, I'm gonna live like this the rest of my life.
You don't think a lot about the future.
And then you get to your 30s and like, oh, you know, that kind of hurts a little. Oh yeah, I did that when I was 22. Then you get to your 40s. And then you realize, wow, that was quick. High school felt like yesterday. What did I do with my life? I have the ability now to say I've done something with my life. I just didn't live my life. I did what I love doing. And that's just helping people.
Last question for the humanity. There is a race that we are all running, and it looks like we're losing. It's like against climate change, against social matters, against mental diseases. What do you think will happen?
I think
What's
we're
going
gonna.
on with us? Are we all fucked up or what?
I think, especially in America, I think that younger generation, those 15, 20-year-olds, are going to save us from our mistakes. And I think it might not happen in my lifetime or yours, but little by little, the Republican Party and the Democratic Party will disappear. These kids don't care about Republicans and Democrats. They don't care about anything except a good job, being able to pay up their student loans, and being able to provide for their families. And I think as time goes on, after it gets worse, because it will get worse here, because of individuals who are cancerous, I think you're going to see a change that you don't have to be a lawyer and you don't have to be rich to run for Congress. You know, there's no more legislative process in DC. It's all about longevity and power and money. And I think when the right people, because I used to believe that anybody who ran for office truly believed they can make a difference.
Yeah.
But they're not strong enough mentally and physically to fight what's offered to them. So, you know, if I ran for office, I'd run as an independent, liberal, Republican, conservative, Democrat. I can't be bought. I fought both parties. Mostly Republicans, because they were mostly opposing helping veterans and cops and firefighters. It's just fact. But I've beaten the snot out of Democrats as well. And I'm not gonna, if I chose to run for Congress, I won't run. I'll walk. And I'll wear bells and I'll let them know I'm coming. And I'm ready for a fight. Because the American people deserve better. The people in Latin America or Mexico or wherever deserve better. The people in Eastern Europe deserve better. There's no title in the world that you put before your name that gives you the privilege of being a dick. There's none.
We're all human beings.
Well, you know, she just won prime minister, or he just became president, or he just became a congressman, he just became a state legislator. Who the fuck cares? Do your job and help your constituents. Your first job, your first priority as an elected official is to serve and protect your constituents. So the people that voted for them, if they can't see that they're not doing that, then I blame them.
Well, Mr. John Feal,
Thank you.
that's a great conversation. I appreciate a lot your time and this opportunity to be here and have this conversation here in New York. It's a great timing because we are getting close to September 11. It's always this new opportunity to reborn again, to refresh these thoughts, to take them and show to all the people that haven't heard them, and to remind them that we are all together in this, and we have to think like this, like we are all together.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Gracias.
Muchas gracias. This is it, and we'll see you and we'll hear you in the next episode. Thank you very much for being with us. See you soon.